In this video, we're going to look at operations that we can perform on both strings and lists. One thing that's important to know is we can extract portions of a string, and in order to do that, we have to be able to refer to which portion we want. So we can number the characters in a string, and Python actually gives you two ways of numbering. One is to go from left to right, starting from 0. So 0 would be the position of the first character, 1 is the position of the second, etc. And these position numbers are known as the index of the character. You can also go from right to left in Python. So the rightmost character has an index of -1, and we work our way backwards, and they become more negative. Okay, so what does that mean? It means for this particular string, Perry, the P, we could use either an index of 0 or -5 in order to refer to it. And for the y, we could use either 4 or -1. Given these index values, we can do a variety of things. We can extract a single character by just putting the index in brackets after the variable name for the string. So if we assign the string picobot to the variable name, then if I say name brackets 1, I'm going to get the character I, because remember we start with 0 for the index of the first. So the I is at position 1 in the string. If I do name brackets -3, I get the lowercase b. Here we're going from right to left. -1 is the T, -2 is the O, -3 is the B. Slicing lets me get a substring containing potentially more than one character, and here I'm giving two values in the brackets, and those two values are separated by a colon. The first index that I give tells me where to start the slice, the substring, so we call them slices in Python. The second index tells me where to end it, and my slice is going to go up to but not including the character at that end index. For example, if I go back to my string picobot that I've assigned to the variable name, if I say give me a slice from position 0 up to but not including position 2, I get the first two characters, the PI. I don't get the C, which is the character at position 2. Here I'm asking for the slice from position 1 up to but not including position -1. So notice what I get here. I'm starting at position 1, which is the I. I'm going up to but not including the character at position -1, which is the T. And so I get ecobo. I don't get the T. Now you can omit one or more of these two numbers. If I omit the end index, Python assumes I want to go all the way to the end of the string. If I omit the beginning index, Python assumes I want to start at the very beginning. So here, for example, I'm saying start at the very beginning, because I didn't put a number. Then I have my colon, and then I'm saying go up to but not including position 4. And so I end up with the first 4 characters. Some other operations I can do, I can use the plus operator. If both of my values are strings, I'm going to concatenate them together. So for example, let's assume that I assign the string literal program to the variable word. I could then use this expression here, using the plus operator, to concatenate the value of the variable word with the string s. And so what I'm going to end up with is programs, right? Because I took the value of word, it got replaced by its value, then I concatenated the string s, and that gave me programs. I can use the multiplication operator with a string to produce a new string that has that many copies of the original. So here I'm taking this string, I'm creating 3 copies of it, and I get a new string with those 3 copies concatenated together. I can also figure out the length of a string. So here I'm saying let Perry be assigned to the variable name, and then I'm saying what's the length of the string represented by that variable. So notice it's 5 because the value of name is the string Perry, and its length is 5. It has 5 characters. Now it's possible to have an empty string. which is a string with no characters at all. And that means there's nothing in between the quotes. So there's not even a space in there. And the length of an empty string is 0. Now the good news is the operations that we learned about for strings we can also apply to lists. And for applying these operations we're going to want to be able to number the elements of the list just like we did with the characters in a string. Here I'm showing you the index values using the approach in which we start with 0 for the leftmost element and work our way from left to right. And you can see I've taken this list of 4 strings and I've assigned it to the variable majors, and I'm doing this at the shell, which is why you see these 3 greater than symbols. That's the shell prompt. You might want to try this actually on your own at the shell. And let's assume that we do that. And then if I type in this expression, which is an indexing expression, what I'm going to get is the element at position 2, which is English, the string English. I can also do a slice, so I'm saying start at position 1, go up to but not including position 3. And what we get in this case is a sublist containing element 1 and element 2 of the list. I can figure out the length of the list using the len function, and here it tells me there are 4 elements, and I can concatenate 2 lists. Here I'm concatenating the list represented by the variable majors with this new list that only has 1 element, and when I enter this expression at the shell I get a new list with 5 elements. Here's one subtle difference between strings and lists. With a string, whether I do a slice or whether I use just an index with a single value, I'm going to get a string in both cases. So here you can see I've taken the string terriers and assigned it to the variable s, and whether I say give me a slice starting at 1 and going up to but not including 2, or whether I just do an index with a value of 1, I'm going to get the same result, which is the string e, because it is the character at position 1 in the string. But if I do something similar with a list, I'm not necessarily going to get the same result. So with lists, a slice always gives me a list, whereas doing an expression with just a single index is going to give me that single element, and it may or may not be a list. So take for example this list. Let's assume that I assign it to the variable info in the shell. Now if I do those 2 comparable expressions, right, one of which is a slice, just like I did up here, and one of which is just using a single index, you can see that I don't get the same thing this time, because the slice gives me a sublist containing the element at position 1, whereas if I just do the index, I'm just going to get that element. It's not going to give me a list. Now it is possible that indexing will give you a list. So for example here I'm asking for the element at position -1, and because that element is itself a list, I'm going to see that list when I enter the expression.